What do you feel when life is limiting you at every step? Your body, your mind, and your emotions. This is a video about how I went from being completely stuck to being emotionally and creatively completely free. So if you are a creator or you're aspiring to be creative and creating more, then this video is going to be for you. I've been interested in many different processes, all to enhance my creativity and level of freedom. I went into acting, I went to create tattoos, I went to drawing, I went to create music, I went to creating businesses. And I found a common thread in all of them. And it's about how we use ourselves. And at the beginning, I was completely stuck. I think one reason that I went to creating and wanted to express myself is that the creation, the process, it helped me to have a little escape from reality, because sometimes it felt so heavy. I can remember having panic attacks and I just couldn't deal with myself. I couldn't connect with people. I had some barriers inside of me. I was constantly feeling like everyone was better than me. Everyone was able, and I was so outside of everything else. And I didn't like the feeling. And when I was in a creative process, when I first started playing music and drawing, then I saw a little way out. I forgot about everything and I was able to dedicate myself completely to the process. So there was this deep state where I was desperate. I couldn't really be myself. I couldn't be myself when no one was around. I didn't even know what that was. I couldn't be around people too much, be myself. I felt completely judged all the time. And I needed to change it. There was a moment where I went back to a place where I used to work to help out. I worked a lot of things out and I developed a lot. That was around 2 years after, and I went back to the environment. My body started feeling the same as I used to feel. I was so stressed. I was freaking out. My body was freaking out. I didn't know what was going on. I felt so completely out of control. And then I realized, yeah, body is memory. When you get back into the same situation, you are going to feel a lot of the same emotions. I basically destroyed myself in those 2 weeks, and I can remember being very ill at the end. And then I decided I needed to do something about this. I need to sort myself out. And then I started creating a plan. I was like, no matter what, I'm going to sort this out. I'm going to be in control of myself. I'm going to be able to manage myself the best way I knew how at the time is to just start it. I started moving, I started taking care of my body, I started eating well, and things started to improve slowly. Until this point, I embodied the failed artist archetype. I felt like the more I was struggling, the better my art will be. But in reality, I couldn't even create when I was in that state. I was sabotaging myself. I was procrastinating the whole time. And, well, procrastination can be a process. You push the work in front of you until it becomes unbearable. I realized there's a better way. If you're authentic, if you feel good about creating, if you have a reason to create, then this process is not needed. Procrastination is not needed. Feeling bad about yourself is not needed, I realized. Everyone has their own reasons for creating. What is yours? Why would you create? I learned this recently. Someone was asking, would you die if you wouldn't be allowed to create? And that was very insightful for me. And the man said, if you couldn't create and you wouldn't die, don't create. And that was a real insight for me. I basically realized that Everything is creative in life. Life is creative in itself, outside of us. It takes courage to notice all that creation and to appreciate it. But the same about us, same about things in ourselves. We have this bottomless life in ourselves. How we work, the sensations, the feelings that we've got, how we react to the world. And we have this amazing, huge space inside of us if we look at it. If we get in touch with ourselves, we're able to express ourselves even more. If we know ourselves, why we react to things and what things we react to, and how we can actually use our emotions to fuel our creating when we feel like that is not very sustainable. But if we discipline ourselves, we are able to create an environment where we are creative when we want to be. And I think it's really inspiring when you have been out of control and you have been creative when you felt like that. And instead of that, you realize that you can actually create whenever you want to create. You just have to have the proper tools and the strategy, whatever it is, to use your emotions instead of your emotions using you. Not to be reactive, but be creative and proactive. Creativity, real productivity is not constant output. I'm not for that. It's also the quality, but it's using your emotions to fuel that output. If you know how your emotions work and what you can expect, if you can recognize the patterns in your life and in your emotions, what happens when this is happening? What happens when you react to this in this way? You're able to interrupt the process and you are able to install a new software, upgrade your hardware or upgrade your software, get your body ready to be able to express those things you want to be expressing, those emotions that your body is the castle of. Your emotions are living in your body, and if you're able to use them to your advantage, if you take a step back and able to manage that, the life you want, create your destiny, whatever you want to call it, if you're creating what you really want to create, and if you use your emotions to fuel that, to be strategic about it, that is what real creation is about. Because it's never gone. We might need to recharge it, we might need to rest a little bit, but it's always there. Creativity is messy, it can be messy, but only if you don't know how to manage it. If you do not know your creative process, if you know what to expect, if you know that you're going to be feeling very anxious at the beginning, then it's fine. Then you know what to expect, and then you're going to be welcoming it. So what is your creative process? I realized mine was I need to get in touch with myself. I need connection. If I bounce ideas back with other people, I get creative. If I get feedback, although it's not very pleasant to get feedback sometimes, because you have to face the reality that what you were doing is not right, or you were thinking of things in a completely abstract way. And that is not really a good place to be in. So getting feedback from how people see you, how people see who you are and what you're creating, what is your output. And if you get the feedback and you're able to implement that feedback non-judgmentally, or even getting inspired by it, oh my God, that is a good idea. If you're able to have the mental flexibility to be open to those new ideas, then it's going to really fuel your creation and you're going to be able to proceed so much faster. So there was this time when I was so desperate and I wanted to connect and I just couldn't use myself. I couldn't understand myself. There was this time when I couldn't even leave the house and I was sitting on the side of my bed for 12 hours every day in order to try to think myself out of my situation. But that wasn't sustainable, that I just didn't know what to do. And then I started to move myself more. I started to take action a little bit more. I always wanted to be doing things. I always wanted to be productive. And I put so much pressure onto myself. and I felt that I wasn't capable, and I just didn't know where it came from. And as I realized, I started reading a lot of books at that time. And I read this particular book called The Body Keeps the Score. And I recognized myself in that so much. And then I realized I actually needed to just get things out of my body. I needed to change my environment. I needed to change my thoughts, and I needed to face my thoughts that I didn't even know existed because it was so normal. Things and thoughts that I was bringing with myself from my childhood. It was a conditioned response that I was having, how I was reacting to life. And because I put myself into situations, into very stressful situations, because I wanted to be capable of dealing with these things. So I had this little story that when I wanted to buy a bus ticket from a bus driver, and I was so terribly socially anxious that I blacked out. And I sort of woke up holding onto the rail a couple of seconds later, like half a minute later, and didn't know what was happening. It caused me a lot of panic attacks later on, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was hospitalized as well, and yeah, well, that wasn't really a good feeling. But I realized that I needed to do something about this. And I was like, what is one thing that could be the biggest contrast that I could ever do? And I realized, okay, I'm gonna go to do acting. And it sort of felt like that if I would be able to master being in front of the camera, being able to be in front of people, then I wouldn't have problem with one-on-one communication. And that is true. So now, many years after, I realized that our decisions are going to influence the way we are living, our future. And although now I have different things to focus on, that I wouldn't change, because then I took responsibility and I was really proud of it. And I'm really proud that I took this step. So I was saying, I definitely had some trauma about communication and self-expression, and I was constantly trying to please everyone. I lost myself, especially when I was living in London. I couldn't get out of the house. So when I was having that, I felt really stupid. I felt like I couldn't handle life. I was like, what the heck is going on? And I needed to apply a radically different perspective. What I started doing is that I started looking at things that I didn't want to look at. And I used the metaphor of looking into the sun and then looking into the darkness. If you look into the sun, you are blinded. You close your eyes and you just do not see. But if the sun goes down and you look at the stars and you look into the abyss long enough, you are going to be able to see a lot more stars. That is how it feels like to look at your fears, to look at what you don't want to be looking at. You're trying to protect yourself first, and you don't want to be looking, you can't look at it, it's too bright, it's like uncomfortable to look at, and you're trying to hide from it. So the longer you look at it, the clearer it becomes. Then I realized I needed to build up credibility with myself again. Because at the time, I really lost myself. I was pleasing everyone, I didn't know who I was. I basically was acting out my childhood thinking in different scenarios, in different high stakes, high pressure scenarios. And that kind of was feeling I was digging the soil under myself, because I was acting from the same frame of mind what was useful when I was younger. So I didn't feel capable from that frame of mind. So I felt like I was digging the soil underneath me with the same frame of mind that was useful when I was growing up. But in that high pressure, high stakes scenarios that I put myself in to be able to get comfortable with just talking to one person, those things really got me deep in the hole. Because I was trying to make life work with the same frame of mind, which was only useful in one situation. What is a frame of mind that could be useful in a situation that you haven't been in? If you have like a high stake, high pressure scenario, what is the frame of mind you could be using? How could you be thinking differently? And that thing I needed to ask from myself. building up credibility with myself step by step was really, really important. Just like taking like one step at a time. I can remember just like the one thing was to set my bed after waking up all the time. Just start with little things and just build up from there. And then I felt like, okay, I can do this. I can do the bigger things as well. I can talk to one person. I am anxious, but I can talk to one person. I can go to auditions as an actor. I can go out. I can talk to friends. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling resentful a little bit. I'm feeling resentful about myself. I'm feeling resentful about what life is. And I'm thinking my bad thoughts still. But I was able to do things about it. And it took a while, and I took some, well, real self-awareness in order to be aware of this. So that is like the journey that I went through. And little by little, I started to become more aware, deciding for myself as well as just taking action. And I built up my self-confidence to the point that now I'm doing this video on YouTube, and if someone says something about it, that's fine. I understand that it's okay. It's allowed to think what they think. And it's very liberating to be thinking completely differently. And I know exactly how I did it, and I want to help you to do the same. If there's a life scenario, a life situation that comes back to you and keeps repeating in your life, then you can decide differently, and you can just create different scenarios with a different frame of mind. So I had this real deep situation after where I was dumped, but not in a straightforward way, by the love of my life. I felt so lost. I felt like I was used. I think both our sort of traumas acted together and just created this incredible pit for me. And I was gonna die. I was so painful. It was painful because of the meaning I was giving it. And I realized I could reframe it. And I had some tools in my back pocket. Started realizing so I moved away and I moved alone for the first time in my life. And I realized that the house, the flat that I was living in, it's not possible that I came here and all these bad feelings were here. So I needed to bring it with me. And I was forced to stare at the wall and become aware of it very strongly. And the only person that can do anything about this is me. So I needed to really hone into this. And I started to take some trainings. I looked into NLP, which is the art and science of how to create the life that feels exactly the way you want it to feel. And I got some new tools and new way of changing my mind as well. So I was basically my first experiment. And I can remember like 2 months after I started it, it was the first time in my life where I liked my thoughts. It was a good moment. And then there was still some difficulties, but I knew exactly how to own those moments. And I do think that life is about creativity. Our whole life is about how we deal with situations, how we deal with ourselves, and how we communicate, how we self-express. So creativity is everywhere. Creativity is in art. Creativity is in business. And what I aspire to do is to put my acting and improvisation expertise, or like experience, and what I want to do is to put my acting experience and experience in different art forms like music, drawing, painting, tattoo making, whatever it is, and to apply it to other areas of life. Like I applied like that sort of thinking, that sort of creative thinking, creative frameworks onto my business as well, which proved to be really, really interesting because I know how to access the creative being, the creative state of me. and I know how to put myself in that creative state. Like whenever I want to be creative, I needed to fight with it. But at the end, when I knew what I was doing exactly, that changed the game. So it has been a huge journey, going from struggling artist when I didn't know how I was going to survive. I was taking one day after the next, to have this creativity, to understand how self-expression works, how creativity works, how business works, and how we can apply creativity in different areas of our lives, to be authentic, to be really ourselves and not be derailed by outside judgment. One thing that inspires me is when someone is able to take control of their life, to get back what they have lost or they have never had. And for me, that is the hero. And I want to see many people to feel and be like heroes, their own heroes, to feel like that they can do what they're about to do, to get the life what they want, to get the tools, to get the progress, to get the momentum that they need to get where they want to be. Everyone has their own definition of success. I see it in a way that we are successful creatives when we are bold, creative, and express ourselves authentically. When we let our creation to turn our lives into meaning. So if you feel the spark, join this journey, subscribe, comment, and let's have a conversation about creativity. And be part of this tribe of amazing creatives who want to be successful on their own terms. See you around.